Rayan Maktoul believed he had married the perfect woman, but when a mysterious envelope shattered his illusion on their wedding night, his bride, Avelia Duran, also known as Lina Veras, was dead by morning. Behind the diamonds, designer gowns, and Dubai skyline was a secret so dark it turned a honeymoon into a homicide, and a groom into a fugitive. In the dazzling heart of Dubai, where wealth and wonder coexist beneath the shadow of towering skyscrapers and golden sunsets, the wedding of Rayan Maktoul and Avelia Duran had become the talk of the city. It wasn't just another glamorous celebration. It was a symbol of merging worlds. Rayan, a 32-year-old heir to one of Dubai's oldest logistics empires, was known for his charm, wealth, and calculated decisions. Avelia, by contrast, was a mystery. Elegant, poised, and stunning in her custom French lace bridal gown, she seemed to appear from nowhere 6 months ago and instantly enchanted the city's elite. Their wedding was held at Jumeirah Al Nazim, an opulent seaside hotel, known for hosting royalty and dignitaries. Guests arrived in chauffeur-driven Bentleys and Rolls-Royces, each one handed a custom-engraved invitation sealed in gold. The ballroom shimmered with thousands of orchids imported from Singapore, candles floated in crystal bowls, and violinists performed under chandeliers that looked like fallen stars. Avelia stood at the center of it all, the perfect image of a bride, flawless makeup, timeless grace, and an expression so calm it almost felt rehearsed. Yet behind the glamour, a different energy pulsed. Many guests quietly whispered about how little they knew about the bride. Some claimed she had a European accent that would occasionally shift. Others mentioned how she had once said she didn't have any living relatives. There were no bridesmaids, no family speeches, only a single woman in her early 40s who claimed to be Avelia's mentor from her art gallery job. Rayan, who usually made decisions slowly, had rushed this marriage. He had introduced Avelia as his soulmate just weeks after meeting her at an auction in downtown Dubai. Despite the rumors, the ceremony went ahead flawlessly. As they exchanged vows under a golden arch facing the Arabian Sea, it seemed nothing could darken the couple's perfect beginning. But hidden among the many congratulatory gifts was a simple white envelope with no return address. It arrived at the hotel's front desk addressed only to the groom. Inside were 3 photos, old, grainy, and worn, showing a woman bearing a striking resemblance to Avelia, dressed differently and standing beside a man whose face was partially visible. The postmark was foreign, the handwriting sharp. Rayan didn't open the envelope until later that evening, tucked away from the spotlight in the penthouse suite. Up until that point, he had been caught in the high of the celebration, the champagne toasts, the adoration of guests, the beauty of his new wife. But once he saw those images, something changed in him. Doubt slithered in, quiet but poisonous. Still, he returned to the bedroom without saying a word. Avelia had changed out of her gown and into a silk robe, her back to him as she removed her earrings. Rayan watched her for a moment, the envelope now folded in his hand, the photographs burned into his memory. He smiled faintly, said nothing, and joined her in bed. But sleep did not come easily. In the dark, Rayan stared at the ceiling, mind racing. Who was the man in the photograph? Why did Avelia look so different? And why did she never mention any of this? Outside their hotel window, the glittering city slept peacefully. Inside, a storm was beginning to brew. The night had promised a new beginning, a future shaped by love and luxury. But before dawn, something far more sinister would unfold. Avelia had carefully built a life meant to escape the past, while Rayan had walked into the marriage unaware that secrets had been buried just beneath the surface. In the hours to come, everything beautiful about their wedding would be replaced with something haunting, something final. The morning after the wedding was expected to be filled with serenity, breakfast in bed, and the gentle beginning of a life newly shared. But for Rayan Maktoul, The first light of dawn brought only restlessness and a mind tormented by suspicion. The images he had received the night before lingered in his thoughts, like shadows clinging to the corners of the room. He couldn't stop replaying them in his head. The woman in the photographs looked like Avelia, but there were differences. Her hair was shorter, darker. Her eyes, once soft and graceful, looked sharp and alert in the captured frames. The man in the images appeared older, his face angled away in most shots, but there was something unsettling about the way he stood beside her. The photos were taken in what looked like a Southeast Asian street, market stalls, neon signs in foreign scripts, and an unmistakable grittiness. It clashed with the image of the woman Rayan had fallen in love with, the sophisticated curator who had charmed his family's inner circle and hosted exclusive art showcases in Dubai's elite galleries. He couldn't resist the need to confirm what he now feared. While Avelia remained asleep, Rayan rose silently and went to her suitcase, the one she had carefully locked and placed inside the walk-in closet. With a small tool from his travel case, he picked the lock. His hands trembled slightly, unsure if he was committing a betrayal or uncovering one. Inside, folded between layers of silk garments and luxury makeup kits, he found a zipped leather pouch. From within, 2 passports slipped out. One bore the name Avelia Duran, the identity he knew, and the other was issued to someone named Lina Veras. The photograph matched her face almost exactly, but with subtle differences. The eyebrows were unshaped, the smile missing. He flipped through the pages. The passport had stamps from Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Colombia, dated just 5 years ago. Underneath the pouch was an old memory card, tucked in a jewelry box. He slotted it into his tablet. Dozens of photos loaded, images of the same woman, Avelia or Lina, in places he had never heard her mention. There were pictures of her with people who didn't look like tourists or friends. Some looked like surveillance images. Others appeared too staged. A few photos even showed small sculptures and paintings being packed into crates, items he recognized from the gallery where she worked. Only now he questioned what had really been inside them. Rayan's breathing became heavier. He placed everything back quickly, closed the suitcase, and stepped out onto the penthouse balcony. The air was still, the view endless, but his thoughts were in chaos. How had he fallen into this without seeing it? A woman with a past, not just secretive, but possibly criminal, was now his wife. And he had no idea who she truly was. As the hours passed, Rayan couldn't shake the unease. He called a private investigator he had worked with in the past, sending him images from the anonymous envelope. Within the hour, the man called back. He had traced the photos to a known drug trafficking case from Bangkok 5 years earlier. A man named Thomas Velez had been arrested. The woman in the background was still unidentified at the time. Until now, that name echoed in Rayan's mind like a warning. Thomas Velez. He didn't yet know who he was or what Avelia's know. Lina's connection was, but the investigators' tone had shifted. Something was wrong. Something dangerous. By the afternoon, Rayan's demeanor had changed completely. He avoided looking directly at Avelia. He smiled when necessary, said little, and observed everything. Her movements, her voice, her eyes. She was still the same woman outwardly, but now every word she spoke sounded like a carefully crafted lie. He needed answers, but he also needed to be careful. Rayan wasn't sure if Avelia was capable of violence, but the more he uncovered, the more he feared that confronting her directly might provoke something he wasn't prepared for. And so, he waited, watching, planning, wondering if his first day of marriage would also be his last night of peace. The morning sun had barely climbed above the horizon when the call came into the hotel's front desk. A housekeeper, scheduled to tidy the exclusive penthouse suite, had reported a strong metallic odor seeping into the hallway. At first, hotel staff assumed it was a plumbing issue or a spill from a room service tray. But when their knocks went unanswered and no one picked up the in-room phone, management made the decision to call security. 2 guards accompanied the housekeeper to the suite, using a master key to gain access. The scene they walked into was haunting. Inside the pristine white-tiled bathroom, Avelia Duran lay sprawled on the cold floor. Her silk robe was soaked in blood, spreading in wide, dried patches across the grout lines. Her wrists showed signs of struggle. The expression frozen on her face was one of shock, her eyes wide open, staring blankly toward the ceiling. Her wedding ring was still on her finger, glinting under the pale bathroom light. Elsewhere in the suite, everything appeared untouched. The bed made, the breakfast tray untouched, the curtains gently swaying with the air conditioning. There were no signs of forced entry or broken furniture. No struggle had been heard by any of the neighboring guests. It was as if death had slipped in quietly and left with even less of a trace. Dubai police were dispatched immediately. Given the victim's high-profile wedding just the night before, they arrived with a full forensics team. One by one, they combed through the suite, documenting every inch, every object out of place. They discovered that Avelia's phone, laptop, and a small duffel bag were missing. There was no sign of her husband, Rayan Maktoul. The suite's security log revealed that the only exit and entry occurred at 12:48 a.m. A man matching Rayan's description was seen exiting through the private elevator wearing a hoodie and dark trousers, carrying a bag. By noon, news of the death had not yet reached the public, but behind closed doors, investigators were already treating it as a homicide. Dubai's Criminal Investigation Department worked swiftly, and within hours, the case had escalated into a full manhunt. Rayan Maktoul, once a symbol of business success and privilege, was now a fugitive groom suspected of murdering his bride. Less than 24 hours after marrying her, what disturbed detectives even more, however, wasn't just the murder, but what they found beneath the bed. Tucked inside a leather-bound notebook was a small USB flash drive. When they opened it, they discovered encrypted folders and files with bizarre names, coded documents, some in Spanish, others in Thai and Arabic. Among the documents were scans of fake identification cards, offshore bank transaction logs, and a photo of a man identified as Tomas Velez. This raised a troubling question. Who was Avelia Duran really? Interpol was quickly contacted, and within hours they confirmed that Tomas Velez was a Colombian national arrested in Thailand in 2019 during a massive narcotic sting involving smuggling through fine art shipments. Authorities had long suspected a female partner, but her identity had remained elusive until now. The luxury wedding, the new name, the reinvention. It all began to look like a carefully constructed escape plan. Avelia, whose real name was Lina Veras, had been hiding in plain sight. She had buried her past under layers of charm, sophistication, and secrecy. Her marriage to Rayan had perhaps been her attempt to close the final chapter on a life she no longer wanted to be connected to, but someone hadn't forgotten. Whether Rayan had discovered her past and acted in rage, or whether someone else had used him to tie up loose ends, remained uncertain. The timing of the anonymous envelope, the rapid disappearance, and the precision of the killing suggested more than just passion or betrayal. It suggested strategy. And now, with the bride dead and the groom gone, Dubai authorities were left with a single question. Was this the end of a love story, or the middle of a much darker operation still unfolding in the shadows? As investigators dug deeper into the past of the woman once known as Avelia Duran, what emerged was a tangled web of deception, reinvention, and global crime. The real name on the second passport, Lina Veras, was the key that unlocked years of unanswered questions. Dubai authorities, working with Interpol, uncovered a trail that stretched across continents. Lina Veras had not simply fled a difficult life or escaped a bad marriage. She had vanished from the heart of a transnational criminal operation, leaving behind chaos, betrayal, and silence. 5 years earlier, Lina had been living in Thailand under another false identity when a drug enforcement agency raided a warehouse outside Bangkok. Hidden inside crates of high-end sculptures, authorities found millions of dollars worth of narcotics destined for Europe and the Middle East. The arrest of Tomás Velez, a Colombian cartel operative, sent shockwaves through the region. He was caught red-handed, but his female accomplice, identified only as Laia Spectra, the ghost, had slipped away just days before the bust. Interpol had theories, whispers, and scattered reports suggesting the woman had used her background in fine art as a front for moving illegal goods across borders. The smuggling operation was advanced, involving galleries, auction houses, and museum loans. Pieces were loaned between international institutions, but some of them never contained the art listed on paper. Instead, they were carriers, hiding diamonds, synthetic opioids, or encrypted drives with financial data. After the bust, Lina disappeared. There were no bank records, no flights under her real name, no credit activity. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Until now, the more authorities uncovered, the more questions arose. In Dubai, she had carefully rebuilt herself. Under the alias Avelia Duran, she had gained employment at an upscale art gallery, earned the trust of local collectors, and lived in a high-rise downtown apartment. Her resume was clean, her references forged, and her presence impeccable. There were no outward signs of fear or paranoia. She had succeeded in starting over something fugitives rarely manage, yet someone had found her. The anonymous envelope left at the hotel seemed less like a warning and more like a trap. Investigators were now convinced it was not a random act. The photographs it contained appeared to have been printed from an old surveillance file, the type kept by law enforcement or private intelligence groups. Someone with access had deliberately sent them on the day of the wedding. It became clear that whoever sent the envelope wanted Rayan to discover her past. Perhaps they wanted him to confront her. Perhaps they wanted a reaction. But the larger question loomed: who stood to gain from Lina Veras' death? Authorities speculated on multiple possibilities. A rival cartel seeking to silence her, a former accomplice eliminating a loose end, or someone from Tomás Velez's network still loyal to him, believing Lina had betrayed him before his arrest. The theory that Rayan had killed her out of rage began to feel less convincing. He had vanished with precision, as though coached or following a plan. He had taken her phone, her laptop, and critical documents. This suggested something more than spontaneous violence. It hinted at purpose. Some investigators even floated the idea that Rayan might not have acted alone, that someone had influenced him or manipulated him into becoming the final instrument of her destruction. Perhaps he was a pawn in a much bigger game. As the investigation expanded, it became increasingly evident that the death of Lina Veras was not simply a tragic end to a short-lived marriage. It was the culmination of years spent running from a past too dangerous to forget. And although she had tried to leave it behind, someone had patiently waited until the perfect moment to strike. Her death sent a ripple across the global intelligence community. Files were reopened. Names long erased from watch lists were quietly added again. And far from Dubai, in private rooms behind locked doors, powerful people whispered about what Lina Veras might have known, and whether her secrets had died with her. 23 days after Avelia Duran's lifeless body was discovered in the penthouse suite, authorities tracked Rayan Maktoul to a private airstrip in Casablanca, Morocco. He was attempting to board a discreet charter flight bound for Snow Paulo, using forged documents and traveling under an assumed name. His sudden appearance at the edge of South America raised more questions than answers. Why Morocco? Why Brazil? And more importantly, who had helped him get that far? Dubai authorities worked swiftly with Moroccan intelligence to secure his extradition. Rayan offered no resistance during arrest. When investigators finally confronted him back in Dubai, he appeared cold, tired, and withdrawn. During questioning, he confessed to the murder, but his story was fragmented and filled with inconsistencies. He claimed that after receiving the photographs and uncovering his bride's secret life, he panicked. He insisted he felt threatened, that Avelia had lied to him, manipulated him, and may have intended to harm him once she no longer needed him. But the physical evidence contradicted parts of his narrative. There were no defensive wounds on Avelia, no signs of a struggle beyond superficial bruises. Her body was discovered in a vulnerable position, with no indications that she had anticipated an attack. Investigators suspected that she had been ambushed, possibly while unaware or asleep. The clean nature of the scene, the lack of chaos, suggested premeditation. Further analysis of Rayan's movements in the days leading up to the wedding revealed he had conducted multiple online searches related to foreign IDs, private flights, and extradition laws. Financial records showed large cash withdrawals and a new bank account opened in a different name. Someone had coached him, or he had prepared himself for what came after. The envelope, it seemed, had not only shattered his trust, it had activated a plan. During trial proceedings, prosecutors painted Rayan not just as a betrayed husband, but as a man who took justice into his own hands after discovering he had married a fugitive from international law. His defense claimed he had been mentally and emotionally manipulated by a woman with a double life. They argued he feared for his life, believing she would kill him to maintain her cover. But this was speculation. No hard evidence pointed to Lina or Avelia planning any violence against him. Court documents revealed Lina had stopped communicating with her old contacts months before the wedding. Her phone showed searches about marriage visas, domestic travel, and cultural expectations in Dubai, not criminal activity. She had been slowly severing her past. She hadn't traveled outside the UAE in over a year. It looked less like a con and more like someone trying to disappear in peace. But someone hadn't let her. The origin of the anonymous envelope remained unsolved. It hadn't been mailed through any traceable post office. No fingerprints, no DNA, and no hotel surveillance caught the person who delivered it. Authorities began to believe the envelope was part of a larger setup, a psychological trigger. Someone somewhere had weaponized Rayan's ignorance and pride, calculating that if he discovered the truth, he would take matters into his own hands. In court, Rayan showed little emotion. The family that once celebrated his wedding in glittering halls now sat in silence, their eyes downcast. The press swarmed the courthouse daily, and the public followed the trial like a tragedy unfolding in chapters. In the end, Rayan was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. But even with a conviction, justice felt incomplete. Interpol quietly reopened files connected to Tomas Velez. Old assets were reactivated. Surveillance resumed on known affiliates in Southeast Asia and South America. They now believed Lina Veras may have held information that others wanted erased. Her death, at the hands of her new husband, had tied up a loose end that someone else had left dangling. Rayan might have thought he acted on instinct, on betrayal, on fury. But many believed he had been played, another piece in a global operation where love, trust, and truth were just tools used to control outcomes. As the dust settled, one fact remained: the past never forgets. It only waits.